promised salaries and payments are delayed and not paid to the Russian troops. Problems with the accuracy of monetary allowances are practically all over Russia, the Sibir.Realii publication writes. According to the military, massive problems with payments started in January of this year. For example, as the mobilized Transbaikal residents told reporters, they go on rotation after staying at the front line, but instead of rest, they plan to hold a rally.
There were a dozen of us, Transbaikal residents, in the battalion. All the rest were from Buryatia, the Omsk region and Primorye. They received payments of 195,000 rubles, but we didn't. More than 4 months have passed and the issue has not been resolved. At first we were fed with promises that everything would be paid upon our return. But if there are no payments by the end of the month, we are ready to go to the rally, mobilized to the Russian army in an interview with Sibir.Realii.
Since the start of the Russian full-scale war against Ukraine, the Russian participating in the hostilities were promised fabulous sums. Contract soldiers were promised an average of 150,000–200,000 rubles, mobilized at least 195,000 rubles. Sibir.Realii writes, however, there has been no money since the beginning of the year. Judging by the interceptions of the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine, Russian commanders also refused to let soldiers go on rotation.
It's just that there are no holidays, nothing.
Well, yes, you see, I asked about it, and you can turn to the commander only.
The commander doesn't care. They are at headquarters. If something happens, they will be the first to run away. We have mobilized company officers, and they don't let us go out unless you're wounded. Then you can visit hospital in Russia. Otherwise, it's useless.
What a nightmare.
No money is paid, no supplies, no rotation, nothing. Get me out of that shit, I'm tired.
Russian officials received complaints from the mobilized and their families demanding to understand why such an injustice with holidays happens. Some are given one, others none. State Duma deputy Maxim Ivanov writes on his page on the Russian social network VK that he sent a request to the Russian Ministry of Defense to explain the mechanism for granting holidays. The answer came without specifics.
The issues of granting days off to the participants of the special military operation at the legislative level are not adapted to the current realities, and in 90% of cases, the decision on the issue is made by the commander of the military unit in accordance with his unique understanding of the situation. I turned to my colleague in the State Duma, the head of the subgroup on mobilization issues, with a proposal to develop uniform rules for granting holidays to members of the special military operation. Maxim Ivanov, deputy of the State Duma of Russia, on his page on VKontakte.
Russian human rights activist Valentina Melnikova, in an interview with Verstka publication, said that the current delays in salaries, allowances and social payments were associated with the administrative collapse faced by the army bureaucracy. According to her, it often happens that officially a person is listed in one unit but physically is part of another one. People do not understand. They don't want to understand that a military unit is a bunch of servicemen and a bunch of documents. If these people were there before, if the unit knows them, if you're a homeboy, dear, as in the case with contract soldiers, they can check something. But if it's just a surname on the list, as in the case with the mobilized or the volunteers, there is confusion. We had not had so many people involved in hostilities before. We had neither volunteers nor mobilized. We have no experience working with such personnel. Valentina Melnikova, chairwoman of the Union of Committees of Soldiers' Mothers, in an interview with Verstka publication. Russian oppositionist Andrei Sidelnikov believes that delays in salaries for military personnel will continue to accumulate. As the Russian government reported, by March 2023, the federal budget deficit had already exceeded the annual plan. The treasury is empty, inflation is growing, so paying the Russians for participating in the war against Ukraine was just an empty promise, the oppositionist believes.
Here is a combination of factors, in my opinion, and the embezzlement of funds is large-scale, which the Russian Federation has not yet experienced. And in general, who did say that these promises that the government, Putin and the military gave would be fulfilled? When did the state fulfill its obligations to citizens at all? I don't really remember this. Many ran for easy money because fabulous money was promised for participation in the war. It was necessary to mobilize people. It was possible to mobilize only with financial support, because who wants to die?
Russian servicemen have begun to realize that they are fighting for free and their complaints go into oblivion, Sidelnikov says. Meanwhile, the campaign to attract new troops to the war against Ukraine continues. According to Ukrainian military intelligence, all evidence indicates that Putin lacks manpower, so he plans to recruit another 400,000 contract soldiers into the army. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Natalia Bilokudra, Yevgeny Karmazin, UATV News.